Valentine's Day is overrated. Let's talk about real pleasure. If you haven't met me before, I'm a nutrition and mindset coach. I absolutely love what I do, hence, I've been doing it for nearly 10 years. But I wanted today to be about a bit of a different conversation about real pleasure. And that is not involving chocolates, it's not involving flowers or fancy dinners, although they are really awesome. But it's the kind of pleasure that actually fills you up and lights you up and makes you feel really alive. And I think as women, that's something that a lot of us are really searching for, especially as we get older, especially after we've spent so many years putting into other people or to family and to friends and to work and everybody else. And we don't feel that kind of level of pleasure that we're still seeking. Let's get real and let's talk about pleasure. And have you actually learned something about it? One of the things I think it's really interesting for us as women is that we feel like pleasure is something that we need to earn. It's an earned thing. When you have worked really hard, then you deserve the pleasure after that of whatever you decide to do. When you have lost weight and you feel like there should be pleasure after that, or when you are doing something for someone else, that there should be that reward of pleasure. And I'm a big one for flipping the script. And pleasure doesn't have to be luxury. Pleasure doesn't have to be something that is even an actual tangible thing. It's important to understand that pleasure is important part of us as human beings, because if we don't do these things for ourselves, we will find other ways to seek it. And I know that from being a binge eater and emotional eater. And I believe that seeking pleasure for ourselves doesn't have to involve anybody else. It really doesn't have to have anything to do with somebody else. So what can happen is we have, I believe, been taught, or it's been modeled to us, that we disconnect from pleasure. And the way that looks is the good girl conditioning. We've been raised to believe that pleasure is selfish, whether it's eating certain foods like chocolate or any type of food, really. Rest. If you rest, then you're lazy. We've lost that. The good girl conditioning is really where we've lost that ability to simply enjoy ourselves without the feelings of guilt, okay, and shame sometimes, but especially guilt. We've been told by those around us, and it's been modeled to us, to be givers, not receivers. And I work with so many women that don't know how to receive, that all they do time and time again is to look after everyone else. And that good girl conditioning, it really does impact us, especially as we get older and we get more tired, and we've been doing it such a long time that it's just so normal in all areas, right? Oops. No. The thing is, we've made our worth tied up to how much we do for others, how busy we are, and not in how we feel about ourselves. And it shows up in everyday life because we jump to help others when we don't have capacity, when we put others first instead of ourselves, when we feel guilty about stopping and resting and giving ourselves what we actually need. And again, this is reminding us that it's important to remind ourselves that pleasure isn't a reward. It's another way that we fuel ourselves. Just like we fuel ourselves with healthy food, we fuel ourselves with pleasure as well. And I find the women that understand this and do this for themselves and start to bring it in as part of their practice, they give up emotionally eating and binge eating, stress eating really quickly, because there is a healthier balance within their lives. So how do you reclaim and bring back and receive pleasure in your body, in your day-to-day life? So how do we bring more pleasure into our lives? And also, how do we do it without guilt? So here's 3 tips that I've jotted down to share with you. Number 1, which is my favorite, is to eat food that you actually want to eat, that you enjoy. Now, this doesn't mean going to Macca's, but it does mean being very mindful, being present with your food. Instead of being numbing out with the TV or scrolling on your phone while you're eating, I see that a lot, or standing in the kitchen eating and standing. My husband does that, and it's a deep thing we're still working on. But just slowing down and actually enjoying it, savoring it, being present, being mindful. Everyone's lost the ability to do that. And then really swapping that mindset of, I should be eating this, to, I'm allowed to enjoy this. This is okay, or I'm very aware of my food choices here. Simple things of that pleasure of eating, chewing, enjoying that mouthful, and then putting your fork down and taking a breath and just being really present, being in that moment. The next tip I have for you is to move your body in a way that feels good, not as punishment. So it could be like that beautiful walk along the beach, or it could be that you walk around the park and you bring a rug with you, and after you've done your walk, you lie down and you put the rug out and you just absorb the sun. Or maybe you take a little notebook with you and you jot down the things that you feel good about. I used to see people do that all the time, and I think, yeah, whatever. But once you start doing that and making that part of your week, it feels so good. It's the pleasure in that. It's very fueling for the body. It's very fueling for the mind as well. How can you look at moving in a way that you enjoy and being in touch with your body? One of the reasons why everyone talks about yoga is so good for mindset, it's because yoga is about getting in touch with your body, getting into your body, being grounded in your body. And you can do that. You don't have to do yoga. Also, moving your body in a way that's not connected to how many calories you've burnt, because again, that's talking about how you've earned it and how you've earned what foods you're going to eat. I teach my clients how to like dance, not literally because I'm a really bad dancer, but dancing where no one's watching you, that kind of dancing. That is such a great way to move your body, a great way for pleasure, a great way to like connect within yourself. It's really beautiful. And lastly, look at the things that you can do for yourself that are pleasure, that are small moments as well, so that you can receive them throughout the day. It could be that you actually pour yourself a bath and you put some of those Epsom salts in, all those essential oils you have. It could be something where you would normally plonk down on the couch for rest period, but instead you grab yourself a nice herbal tea and you put some music on, or you sit in the sun and you really be present and mindful and in your body, and really connecting to those moments that are, an opportunity for you to feel the excitement and pleasure of just being on your own. Just those small things can make such a difference. How can you do those little love things for yourself? It's so beautiful. It's such a great way to be in touch with yourself and to receive, right? Because there is so often this conditioning that's happened where we don't allow ourselves the opportunity to receive. And if we can, that really is a game changer. I just want to finish off by saying pleasure is not something you need to deserve or receive at the end of hard work. It's something you should and can appreciate and receive on a daily basis. Make it part of an experience that you have every day, and do it without the guilt, without apologizing for doing it, without waiting for someone to give you permission. Sometimes my son will say to me, Mum, why don't you just go and do this for yourself? And I think, why is my son giving me permission when I should be giving myself permission? Without that, I deserve it. So I'd love to hear, what's this message really resonated with you? And how can you build a life that has more pleasure in it? So you don't seek the pleasure from your phone. So you don't seek the pleasure from food. So you don't seek the pleasure from things that aren't in alignment with your goals. I would love to hear your thoughts and your experience with pleasure and how that looks to you.